Hey there, I'm Anthony Romano, and I'm going to explain in this video the biggest fat loss game changer that you haven't been told before. In fact, I don't think anybody's really explained this idea the way I'm about to, and the idea is hormonal cycles and circadian rhythm and how they affect your fat loss or other metabolic goals of yours. But that sounds really complicated. Basically, I'm going to explain how, the basic views that people look at, weight loss and body composition goals with, like the calories in, calories out. In one way, yeah, I'm going to be roasting those methods because they don't conform to, what the science shows about circadian rhythms, that like literally Nobel Prize winning concepts of circadian rhythm that have been fully proven, and you can Google that. But so in one way, I'm going to be, showing how that conception is flawed and you should ditch that. And at the same time, I'm going to teach you a lot about your own hormones and how to appropriately use them for your certain goals, whatever they may be. So also, hope your quarantine is going well, and thank you to everybody who's been messaging me to see if I'm still alive during the quarantine. Everything is good, just my client volume has exploded during this quarantine, so I've been taking a lot of time to work on that. You can follow my Instagram if you want to learn or keep up basically with whatever else I'm doing, because even if I don't post all the time on YouTube, I'll be posting, all the other stuff I'm doing, audiobooks, home workouts.
Ooh, shit, you got coronavirus. I'ma chill at the crib cause I'm safe here. I ain't even about to drink me a Corona beer. I'm about
Lots of other stuff on Instagram that doesn't make it to YouTube. So let's go to the video. So what I'm about to explain is going to sound very pseudoscientific, but I'm going to try to make it sound as, scientifically accurate as possible. So everything follows a natural cycle, okay? You're awake half the day, you're asleep half the day. Not fully half and half, but there's a part of the day where you're awake and there's a part of the day where you're asleep. There's a season where things are fruitful and growing, and there's a season where there's winter and everything is not growing. So things are seasonal, okay? I'm trying to establish that here, that there is an objective understanding that things in the world, in nature, tend to function in a dualistic capacity, okay? So that's kind of where we're getting philosophical here. But things function in a on or off, okay? Even if you look at binary code, 0, 1, something, nothing, absence, presence, right? Chaos, order. Everything is a dualistic function in that way. And then you also have the collective thing of everything, which is another thing if you want to bring it to like philosophical realms with Tesla and weird 3, 6, and 9 numbers and, Da Vinci Code and stuff like that. So you can take it there, but that's not where I'm taking this video. So the point is, the only premise you have to buy onto here is, hey, do you believe things are seasonal? If yes, then everything else I'm about to explain to you is going to make sense. So, there's no human that's awake all the time. There's no human that's asleep all the time. There's day and night. There's dualistic processes of everything. And the moment you start studying nutrition or looking into hormones, you'll realize that they're basically different actions. They're like different buttons to press, okay? If you press the insulin button over and over again, you're going to get a lot of anabolic response. Now, depending on the context, that will determine where that anabolic response goes to. But if you, like most people, they'll press the insulin button over and over and over again by eating junk food and high sugar foods, right? And what happens is they eventually store fat, because insulin in one way is referred to as the fat storage hormone. So if you press that button over and over again, then you get fat storage. If you press the cortisol button, you're going to break things down. It's a catabolic hormone. So if you keep pressing the cortisol button over and over and over again, you're going to get muscle breakdown and fat breakdown. If you don't overkill those buttons, you'll get, by pressing the insulin button, some muscle growth. If you press the cortisol button, you'll get some fat burn, okay? And you won't push it too far to the extreme where you've now destroyed your muscle by jamming the cortisol up, and you haven't stored a bunch of fat by jacking the insulin up. So you understand? So the moment you have hormones, it starts to call into question the overall rhythm of when these hormones are not being triggered. Because the moment you have buttons, there's times where the buttons are pressed, and there's times where the buttons are not pressed. So if you have, the moment you start studying nutrition and understanding how these hormones work, it calls into question the idea of the rhythm that these buttons naturally occur in. So this is why there is huge, I guess, praise in the scientific world for the discoveries of circadian rhythm. Of the people I've tried to study for that topic, it would be Dr. Sachin Panda is one of the big ones, and I've been reading another book, a lot of other books on circadian rhythm, especially because for myself, I know that I have the ability to stay up all night long, except then, I'll catch up on the weekend for a large amount of sleep or something. So the way this relates to you is once you know, certain hormones, or once you start to learn a little bit about these hormones, you'll get to the point where you find yourself thinking, what happens when these hormones aren't being pressed, when they aren't being triggered? And that is where the discussion of circadian rhythm comes in, because it's all about making certain processes occur when they're most appropriate to occur. So, example, cortisol rise. That's the most conducive in the morning when you're trying to wake up, when you need a bit more stress. Okay? Not overly stressed to the point where you're having a nervous breakdown, but stress enough to wake you up so that you're no longer in bed. At the same time, these things can get dysregulated when you have, improper sleep cycles, which I've had plenty of times, when you have improper eating cycles, when you have, a terrible diet where you're eating processed sugar all day, lots of other stuff like that. And the thing is, once you start learning about, example, a hormone like ghrelin, okay? People call it ghrelin if you're like, I don't know, I guess one of those people, but ghrelin, that's the hormone that makes you hungry. So in the morning, or whenever you normally eat, whatever time you normally eat, you're going to have a ghrelin spike at that time every single day. There's even studies where people have, they only eat every 2 days, and they'll only get hungry on Tuesday and Thursday. Okay, so that is, again, part of the rhythm, and you can change your rhythm by, putting up with these strategies and then your body adapting. But the way this relates to fat loss, okay, because this is kind of a more conceptual video, and it's one that's going to change your conception of fat loss. Once you understand the rhythms, you now understand that it's not simply calories in, calories out. As I always say, calories in and calories out is one side of the coin. It's the quantitative side. The qualitative side is hormonal conception. So you have, fat loss is dictated by lowering your insulin, by doing a ketogenic diet, by fasting more. Okay, that is the qualitative side, because you're not affecting the quantity of food, you're affecting the quality of the food and its propensity to spike certain fat storage hormones, which means basically you're eating food that's less likely to spike your insulin. So, and you're fasting more to keep your insulin lower. So that is the two sides of the coin that make up fat loss and other metabolic goals. At least as it applies to, cutting goals, right? Which is what this video is about. So now we're going to take it to the next level, because a lot of people on my page, a lot of you have seen that concept that I've explained, the qualitative and quantitative. But the extra layer to that is when you start to understand how this fits into the total context of your day and in your internal clock. So I'm going to start off by saying, a lot of people will tell you, oh yeah, your sleep is best between this time and that time, between 10 and 2, or other things like that, right? That is true, but it's true about what your body perceives 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. to be. So it's not as if, like, your grandma who goes to bed at 9 p.m. says, oh yeah, your sleep is best at 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. That works for her because her body is synced appropriately to 10 and 2. There's a reason why when you travel to a different side of the country, a different side of the world, your clock is dysregulated because it doesn't know what 10 and 2 is. And even though it might be, midnight in that country, your body might think it's 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. Sorry. So bottom line, it's all about your synchronization to what the time actually is in the place you're living. But when we're looking at the best fat loss tool, we know the best fat burning time is in the morning, or at least after you wake up. But the problem here is this. People look at calories as if it's just the be-all, end-all of fat loss. But in reality, the example played out, and the purpose of this video is to explain this example, okay? So this example is, the calorie conception will tell you, if a place is 300 miles away, all you have to do is drive 300 miles, right? The hormonal conception will tell you, yeah, it's 300 miles, but if you drive at the time where fat loss is most conducive based on your hormones, it's like taking the highway. So the calorie model will say, just drive 300 miles. But the hormone model will say, yeah, I drive 300 miles, but if you drive those 300 miles on the highway, you're going to get to your result way quicker. You understand? So it's a matter of timing, okay? The same way that you can't separate time from space. You can't separate a location from time. Now, you can conceptualize it. You can remember a place you've been to, but places do not exist independent from time. That's like more, again, pseudoscientific, philosophical riffing there. But the point is, calories and food do not exist independent of time, the same way that locations do not exist independent of time. So the time is basically indicated in your body based on the hormones that are shooting off at that particular time. So if you're eating at a time where your colonic motility is very high, you're going to digest something way better. If you're eating at a time where your colon is moving very slowly, it's going to digest a lot slower. The hormones are going to be released in a different fashion, and they're probably going to be more conducive to fat storage, or at least slower breakdown of the energy. So now, to finally relate this back to you and how to understand the main point of this video. The main point of this video is simply don't look at things as just calories in, calories out, because I can't tell you when your best time to eat is. I can't tell you when exactly you should eat XYZ, but I can tell you that as far as what works for everybody, everybody's more fat burning, has a higher fat burning mode in the morning, or at least after they've woken up. Try to sync your schedule, of course, to the daily rhythms, which is what everybody's having a hard time with in quarantine, which is partially the reason for this video. But at the same time, the point here is your body is not always going to react to 300 calories the same way. So again, that is to disprove the notion that calories in, calories out is the only thing that matters. It is not. It's a very unsophisticated way to look at things, which is very useful for a lot of people because it makes it simple. But at the same time, the main point here is 300 calories is not always 300 calories. If you have a better fat burning state, if you have more digestive capability at a certain time of day based on hormone fluctuations, then you are going to handle your weight better. You're going to lose more fat, okay? On a diet, you're going to be less likely to store fat. So to give you a clear picture of what to do practically from here, like I said, morning is always the best time to fast. It's always the best time to do cardio. It's always the best time to milk out more fat loss. That is the main point here, no matter what kind of diet you like doing. Obviously for me, I love my ketogenic diets and I will always stand by them. They're absolutely the best way to diet in my opinion, and I've been doing them for 8 years, so that's a long time. I have a lot of experience with that, and I've been fasting for longer than that too, since it was like maybe 14 or something, but keto since 15 and on. And basically what you want to do here is, even if you do a diet that's high carb, processed food, whatever the hell you want to do, in the morning, because your cortisol is high, and there is a lack of insulin present. So remember I said insulin's the fat storage hormone? Because of that, high cortisol in the presence of low insulin is a time where you can take advantage of that opportunity to milk out more fat loss through extra cardio, because at that point, when insulin is low, the body is more likely to release fat. There's reciprocal relationships between other hormones. So I'm going to cut the video off here because I've given you enough bite-sized pieces to understand, okay, do my cardio in the morning, take advantage of that better fat burning period, other practical tips like that. But at the same time, I've tried to explain some conceptual components here without, diving too deep into the water to the point where this is a 40-minute video. So hopefully it wasn't too derivative, but this video was meant to be a new idea, because that's what I like doing with my videos. I want to put out ideas that other people don't put out, because I dedicate myself to studying these things, researching them, and experimenting with a lot of other, ideas, techniques, supplements, things like that. So at the end of the day, watch my other videos and subscribe to me right now. Go to my Instagram, like this video, do all that stuff. Go to my website if you want to work with me together, and also take advantage of my programs, merchandise, all that other stuff. But the point is, I've given you enough to work with here, and if you want to go further down the rabbit hole, watch my other videos. Okay, that is it for me, Anthony Romano. Peace.